In this episode of Creatively Speaking, I want to share with you a little bit about how I see the ecosystem of AI, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and I think this is going to be helpful. Now, the way I look at it, there's three pieces to it. There's music, pictures, and words. I want to share with you a little bit about how we got here. So it all started when the advent of the computer happened, and then the first real breakthrough was about 50 or 60 years ago in something called reinforcement learning. And reinforcement learning means that it can play millions of games, millions of iterations of a rule set, and be able to learn without any memory loss about how to operate in a particular situation given the parameters. It got really good at things that we didn't think it would be good at, and not so good at things that we find super easy. For example, it can beat humans in a game of chess or Go, but if you asked it to take one of those pieces and put it in the fridge, it would be hard pressed to do that. The next major breakthrough happened in kind of the late 90s and the early 2000s. And that's when we started to digitize every piece of information we could possibly get our hands on. And so then every piece of literature, every piece of information was suddenly searchable. And mostly above the equator, mostly for Western civilization, and mostly for light-skinned people. So there are some cautions about the biases inherent in the model. And as computers got faster and faster, this little gadget that's in our hands gave us access to the world of digitized information. The next breakthrough was linking all of those indexes together. And today it's something that they're calling agentic AI. That is, that your AI, or artificial intelligence, operates like an agent because it's able to take multiple indexes, automate them, and create something that maybe an assistant or a travel agent could have done. But here's where I caution you. That term artificial intelligence itself prejudices us against the idea of intelligence. It says implicitly that there are two kinds of intelligences in the world, this artificial one over here and mine. What about the intelligence of dogs, of ants, of bees, of whales, of watersheds, of the earth itself? The term artificial intelligence is a tech industry marketing tool to make you believe that it's more than it really is. We have a tendency to anthropomorphize just about everything. No, we don't. Yes, we do. Now, there's a professor at Berkeley called Alison Gopnik who's doing some really interesting work. She's an early childhood development professor, and we have a computer in its early childhood development. And she talks about this not in terms of it being an intelligence, but it being a cultural technology, much like a library or journalism or democracy. These are technologies that we use as a culture to be able to advance our knowledge and information. When we use this as a cultural technology, we put guardrails around it. You have the Dewey Decimal System to keep all the books organized. You check the books out. There's a fine if you don't return them. OpenAI was initially intended to be a cultural technology, but our capitalist society wants to put $1 on every fucking thing, and so that's where we are with it. But really, if you think about it as a cultural technology, then it becomes a tool for you to get better at the things that you want to get better at, and it may not necessarily make money for your company, but it can save you time and effort, and that makes you more productive, which in the long run could be better. I want to just remind you that when your AI is super nice to you, that is a design element by the makers of it so that you buy it and you use it more. It's not an intelligence. It's a cultural technology, and we need to find ways to make it a tool. So don't be fooled.